Okay, hello, my name is David Lamos, and today I'm going to present you about the LSD and ayahuasca on the human brain. Okay, first of all, before continuing with this presentation, it is important to know some things. The first one is that these drugs are psychotropical, and this means that they affect the central nervous system by altering the serotonin release. This means that it can change our mood, make us happier or saddest, and also they affect our way to perceive the reality and our environment. Also, we have to know that what is ayahuasca? Ayahuasca is a brew that comes from the Baristiniosis caapi and from the DMT. It was created by the indigenous from here, South America, in the Amazon, um, because that is the only part of the world that there is the Baristiniosis caapi. They use it with spiritual purposes because they said that it cleans like our soul and our body, and also in this century, in the 21st century, people started to use this drug again with spiritual purposes because they said the same that our ancestors or indigenous said many years ago. Also, we have the LSD, that is the lysergic acid pt1. It was created by Albert Hoffman on 1938 and is a semi-synthetic drug. This means that comes from another plant that is the ergot fungus. This drug was created with the purposes with psychological and medicinal purposes, but I don't know if sadly on the 60s the hippies started to use it with recreational purposes. Okay, here we have my research question, that is, how do LSD and ayahuasca affect the brain, and how do they have a spiritual weight on people? We have the general objective of the investigation, that is to determine how do LSD and ayahuasca affect the human brain and what are the effects on people in a physical and in a spiritual way. Here we have the specific objectives. There are three. The first one is to identify why people use these drugs for spiritual and psychological purposes. The second one is to observe the consequence these drugs have on people, and the third one is to determine why they have a spiritual weight on people. Okay, we have the procedure and the first diagram, that is the first step. Okay, first I looked and searched on Google Scholar where I saw psychotropical drugs and what are the effects. Then I select article by article only the ones that talk about LSD and ayahuasca, and then I look about the short-term effects and the long-term effects, and also the compounds of these drugs. Then we have the second diagram, that is of the procedure, that is the second step. I look only in the investigation for articles, experiments, or investigations, always scientific investigations. And then I look for experiences of people that use this drug in different ways. In this case, I focused on the psychological, spiritual, and recreative ways, and our effects, like depending on the context, what effects they have on people, or if the effects change, if people using it like mentally preparing on psychological, spiritual, or recreative. And finally, of the second step, I choose from these articles the best information. On the third diagram of the procedures, that is the third step, I look and choose the exact parts of the of these articles, experiments, or investigations that works for my investigation. That works for me. Then I choose that the information that I chose previously should be concise and short, you know, concise and short. That was like the most important part of the third step. And finally, this information should respond to my general objective, my specific objectives, and my research question. Here we have the results. Okay, the results are divided into parts. First, the short-term effects, the long-term effects in each drug, the ayahuasca and the LSD, and then I will show you the other parts of the results. Okay, first, in the short-term effects, we have on the ayahuasca, on the body, it have different reactions to the body, the ayahuasca. First one is diarrhea, vomiting, or general malaise, like when you have COVID, you feel like that way when you use these drugs. Hyperthermia, sweating, and if you consume it on like with a bad administration, you consume a lot of these drugs or a high dose, you can die. And in mental effects or on the brain, we have that you can have very strong hallucinations, you can have flashbacks, memories of your childhood, also traumas, you can see like ghosts or entities, and some people claim to travel to other dimensions. Okay, when it says that you can like remember traumas or have flashbacks of your memory, this part is very important because it can respond to why people use it like in a spiritual way. I mean that when these drugs brings these memories with vivid hallucinations, it can answer to people like why they behave like the way they behave and why they take the decisions they take. In long-term effects, we have that a single dose of ayahuasca, a very high dose of ayahuasca, can affect the connections between neurons in a bad way, or also it is administered in very short dose. It can help the connections between neurons. You can have a change of humor, you can change your mood, and it can cause the ego death. When this is represented on the human, when it respects all the environment, you don't feel like superior to anyone, and that's it with the ayahuasca. Now with the LSD, we have the short-term effects that are the heart rate increases, the temperature of the body change, it is very high, the blood pressure also increases, you can have agitation, euphoria, you will sweat a lot, and you will have hyperthermia too. And in the brain, it presents different reactions from the ayahuasca because this drug can present anxiety, depression, loss of control, loss of memory, And these and the effects of these drugs like ayahuasca, it can have very strong hallucinations. Also, it can change or distortion the sound and the colors we see and the images. And in long-term effects, we have that this include anxiety attacks, depression attacks, loss of contact with the reality. This means that you don't feel like you are where you are. You are not attached to the world. You can have problems with the memory and depression, like I said before. And if you don't control these symptoms, it can be very dangerous for us. Also, you can feel the effects of the drug even like 2 months ago, even if you didn't consume it. So I think this drug is very dangerous. So it should be like controlled when you consume it. Okay, this is the other part of the results. These are divided into ayahuasca and LSD, and these are using ayahuasca psychologically or spiritually, and using LSD psychologically or spiritually. Okay, first, like I said before, this substance have been used from all the South American indigenous very years ago for cleaning the body and from parasites or cleaning the soul, like they used to say, and also like refresh or energies and clean it from bad energies. Uh, Also, there is a study from the Berkeley Foundation that this drug was administered to in microdoses to patients with problems in their neurons, and it was demonstrated that this drug uh, like represent a better neuronal connection on the patients, and also uh, like got better their creativity. Also, this drug was administered to patients with addictions to alcohol and to other drugs, and in microdoses, and it presents like people got away from their addictions. And the LSD, like I said before, this drug was firstly created for psychological and medicinal use. So it was used in microdoses too, giving it to anxiety